Hi guys, welcome back to Gaff with G.O.L.D.R.U.S.H. We're so excited that you've joined us again for another episode. Just wanted to let you know that this episode does have a video attached. So if you go to our YouTube channel at G.O.L.D.R.U.S.H.GY, you can watch the video that corresponds to this podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. Let's get to the episode. And we're so excited to have you guys here with us. We have a very, very special guest that we can't wait to share with you guys. As you know, we have been doing a series called Gold Extraction, where we are finding members of the Guyanese community and highlighting their life experiences, their wins, losses, hardships, obstacles, all the things that they had to do to grind and get themselves to where they are today, allowing them to emerge as a refined gold nugget in our community. So we are sharing somebody with an amazing perspective that I'm sure that many of you have come across on the internet. And she's like an internet auntie to many of us. So I'll let Afia give us a brief intro before she introduces herself.
So we are introducing someone whose journey has been as diverse as it has been inspiring. So with a life that's unfolded across 19 different places, she embodies the spirit of adaptability and resilience. And as a foreign language teacher, she not only imparts knowledge, but also shares her own journey of learning, having both been taught and self-taught before stepping into the role of an educator. Her path has been marked by challenges, yet each experience has shaped her into the person she is today. And she understands that her story is not just hers alone. It's a narrative that will continue to be carried forward, inspiring others along the way. So
to introduce our very special guest is Miss Dion Glasgow, also known as Awe Story Gat Melody on all social media platforms. So we'll give her the chance to say hello and say anything that we may have missed before we get to know her more.
So the first thing I want to tell you guys is that I will be code switching, because when I speak, I actually promote Guyanese Creolese. So I am really delighted to be here. Me proper glad me come. I am so proud that you guys have invited me to this. I'm proud of the dream that you are embarked on. Me proper proud I am. Me glad that I is like a two young girl decide say I go do something like this. And it is Awe Story Gat Melody. The thing name Awe Story Gat Melody. And it doesn't matter if you mixed up the name. That is not what's important. What is important is the message. And the message is our story is worthy of being told.
Mm-hmm.
That's the real thing. No matter how you mix up the words and so on, I'm just code switching because I believe in promoting Guyanese Creolese. No matter how you mix up, you can say Awe, you can say the story, then you can say melody, you can twist some tone, no matter what you do. The most important thing is that our stories matter. And we must become the voices of those stories.
Mm-hmm.
All right? Yes.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you for that.
What an amazing way to start. And for those of you who don't know, Guyana is the only English-speaking country in South America. That is true. That's a fact. But we do have a local language, a local dialect, and that is what Ms. Dion was just describing. Mm-hmm. Guyanese Creolese, Guyanese Creole. You'll hear it in different ways. And Ms. Dion, before we even get into that, do you have any background that you want to share on Creolese? Like, what makes it a language? What makes it distinct from English? Why should we have that?
Oh my God, you are starting me up now. Really, oh my gosh, that's like what is in the essence of me. Guyanese Creolese is a language.
Mm-hmm.
When we have two different cultures coming together, the European with their English, take the Africans who were enslaved, and they decided that, you know what, I am going to colonize you. And by that, I mean that what I represent will become the main thing on you. So you will no longer speak your language. You will no longer have your names. You will no longer have any cultural identifying marks. Now, the African, with their different languages, because they came from different parts of West Africa, they're trying to make sense of this language that they were given, but they still speak their dialect. So the dialects that they speak, the rhythm of that dialect, when it comes into clash with the English, that is the basis of Guyanese Creolese.
Mhm.
So Guyanese Creolese is not just a broken English. Then when the East Indians came as indentured immigrants, what they did was they added their own flair, their own words to Guyanese Creolese. That's why we have words like your pagli, your lamota. Those are all words that came from what is called Bhojpuri Hindustani. And that is what Creolese is. So when we choose to speak this cultural language, as you explained, you rightly said Guyana is an English speaking country. But if someone should just take that and decide, you know what, I'm going to Guyana and I'm going to be speaking English, they're going to get such a shock. They will get what we call a shock attack. And you know what's a shock attack? Because when you get there, you will realize that you cannot even understand the language. By the time you're trying to interpret the first word, they've already said an entire sentence.
Right.
You still at the where. And so it is very important that people understand that they need to learn this language also. Why? Because this is our legacy. This is what our ancestors are saying to us. You know what? When we were powerless, we formed this language.
Right.
And this is what we gift to you.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at this language, it is the reservoir of all of our proverbs, all of our principles, all of our life lessons are in the Creole language.
Right.
Creolese itself has 3 levels. You have the Basilic Creole. That's the one that I really like to speak because it is considered the lowest level and it resembles more what was spoken on the plantation.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have what is called Mesolec, and Mesolec Creolese really is a Creolese that is not standard English, but okay, let me give you an example. For instance, if I say to you, where go? That is Basilic Creolese. If I say, where you going? That is Mesolec Creolese. And then you have Acrolec, which is equivalent to standard English. Where are you going? So those are the languages, but I like the lowest one because that's the legacy that we got.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I love that.
That there was 3 different levels because
Yes.
it's always interpreted as regional differences.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I have family members who may say, oh, where you going? Or where are you going? Like, there's a difference, but I never realized that there was levels to it. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like that takes her into, that explains as to why she has teaching and language in her professional background.
Yes,
so
that makes a lot of sense.
It does. We see the passion. It came from within. So, but before we get into like learning about your professional background, you touched on proverbs, and Guyanese people at times do speak in proverbs. Can you share a little bit more about the importance of proverbs and folk stories in preserving our culture?
Yes, of course. Now, the beautiful thing about our proverbs is that it's a part of our oral tradition. It's the way we speak. You might be speaking to someone and you might say to them, you know what? Not take your matty eye for see. Not take your matty eye for see is actually a piece of life advice. It's something that you can, as we Guyanese say, put it in your pipe and smoke it. That is to say, you can take that on your journey through life. Not take your matty eye for see really means that always try not to let another person influence you and the way you interpret things. It happens a lot when relationships become toxic and, friendships are lost. People will try to take the matty eye for see. And all of these proverbs, sometimes we have parents, they couldn't read. And because of that, one of the ways that they transferred to us the principles of life was through these proverbs. When you hear something like one dirty bill dam, that is not just saying to you, if you take one brick and you put it with another piece of brick, you can build a dam. It's not only the fact that our ancestors built the dams with shovels and spades, But think about that, and think about the fact that they did that before the Dutch came and dig trenches. Those were dug by enslaved African people.
Right.
So when we say one dirty build dam, we should have this image of them in the trenches, working, going through this thing. It didn't just come out of nowhere. All of these came from lived experiences.
Right.
Proverbs are lived experiences. And so if I say to you, one dirty build dam, I'm actually saying to you, what you're doing right now, you started, you had the dream and you decide to start, and you're growing. Today you might see, okay, I have 5,000 subscribers or 5,000 people listening to my podcast, but you keep going. And the next time you will see, okay, you have 10,000. And the next time you see, you have 15,000, and you keep growing. It goes for everything in life. Whatever you want to achieve in this life, whatever it is, whatever that dream is, this is a principle that you can stand on. One dirty build dam. And that's the beauty of all of our principles. And I think we all should be so proud of them, and we should all wear them. Some people are reading self-help books to get what is already in our proverbs.
That's true.
I've always said the older generation, they were so wise. And my grandmother, she didn't use a lot of words, but she was the type to give us a proverb and you got to sit down and mull on it. Like, Grandma, what did you just say?
Something that you really have to think about.
Yeah, but they're timeless.
Yeah, timeless. But in terms of your background and, what inspired you and to be able to really internalize these Guyanese proverbs, how was your background, like growing up, and how your parents instilled all of these teachings into you?
Yes. I was born in Linden. I remember standing underneath the pear tree, and I could have actually influenced my parents' conversation. I would start saying things. I was about 3 years old when I realized that. I would say, "Ooh, look, pear leaves on the ground." And the adults will start talking about the pear leaves. And I was really intentional. I was like, wow, I can actually change what they decide to talk about. But that was not the reality. I grew up with a mother who was really, really hardworking. She was extremely smart, very hardworking, but one of the choices that she made that was not, I guess, to her best benefit was in terms of who she chose to marry. Her parents did not want her to marry my father, but she insisted that this is the man she wanted. But my father did not come with dreams. So my mother had all the dreams. So in addition to raising children, she had to also carry the man.
Right.
And I don't know what that is, but I could imagine the burden of raising children and still carrying the man. So at 5, the relationship disintegrated. Before 5, we're living in Linden. We have everything. I mean, everything. Vacuum cleaner, washing machine, anything you can think about, we had as children growing up in Linden. And we did not speak Creolese. No Creolese. Nothing. My mother was a teacher and she decided that we were not speaking Creolese.
Okay,
but
I
the
see.
relationship was too much for her. The abuse was too much. And so she left one day and told us she was going to come back for us. My father packed all of us up and took us straight to Berbice at his mother in her 1-bedroom house.
Wow.
And how many siblings were you?
We were 5 at the time, but in the house altogether, we ended up being 16 people living in this 1-bedroom house.
Wow.
My bedroom was now under the kitchen table in a rice bag.
Oh my gosh.
Talk about a shift in reality. But this was necessary because Berbice is the place where I learned to speak Creolese. So sometimes the journey might not look as if it is taking you where you want to go. But if you can just embrace it, I did not always embrace the journey, that came with growth. And then my grandmother now, how is she going to take care of all these children? So she decided that she was going to give us to old people in the village who did not have people to live with them. Long
Oh.
ago in Guyana, there was something called keeping old people company.
Mm-hmm.
So if there was an old person living alone, your grandmother could send you to go and sleep with that person, take care of them if they got pain, knife their foot, knife their arthritis. And when we
Yeah.
say that, we really mean like if they're in pain, we would use the oil from the transformer. It used to be called electric oil. And we would knife systemic foot in the night. You're
Mm-hmm.
rubbing the oil on the foot. Now, while I'm living at Sister May, my mother decided that now she wants to have custody of her children.
Okay.
So one day I'm at school, I came home, my mother is there. There's a big story. She took all of us from that place and took us to a different place in Berbice.
And which Berbice is this? West Coast or East
This
Berbice?
is West Coast Berbice.
Shout
All
out
of
West
this is
Coast.
happening on West Coast Berbice. Yes, yes, the place where I came to consciousness. And then, I'm telling you, the next thing happened. She took us to this other place, and then we spent. I can't remember how long we spent because when you've had experiences too traumatic, you repress, and when you repress, you don't remember all the details.
Right.
So from there now, she took us to the west coast of Demerara.
Okay.
And then when she took us there, then she took us to a different place. And if I should tell this story so much, then all these other places. So it was very tumultuous, very difficult, very uncertain. And there are parts of my childhood that I was so uncertain that I read so much so that I could have an alternate reality to live in.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So that was my childhood in a
Wow.
fat nutshell.
Wow.
No,
Then
thank you so much for sharing
Yeah,
that.
thank
Yeah.
you. I can totally see the resistance in your story of growing up, but also in trying to develop this skill set, develop this language that you were originally not allowed to practice or exercise. So, So if we fast forward a little bit, I'm curious to know, after all of these experiences in Guyana, do you feel like you were pushed out? Do you feel like something was calling you to go overseas? How did that happen?
Well, I actually orchestrated this move.
Wow.
I looked around and I'm like, oh my gosh, the pickings. Now, when Guyanese say the pickings slim, they really mean that when they look around at the men that are available, they really don't like any of the men that they see as husband material.
Mm-hmm.
So when I looked around, the pickings were slim. And so I actually was like,
Times have not changed
God,
much.
who am I going to marry? I can't marry somebody who is going to put me back in that place that I came from.
Right.
And so I advertised myself in this magazine. In those days, we didn't have all these online stuff. So I advertised myself in this magazine. I got like 500 replies, and then I showed
Wow.
my and my husband, he came to America from Jamaica, and then I came up to the United States.
But that's interesting because it's less a story about something pushing you out of Guyana, other than you just wanted you very well wanted your husband. You wanted to build a life, and you wanted more options. So I'm curious, though, how did you feel about leaving this place that you've always known as home?
I was 32 years old when I came to the US.
Mm-hmm.
I was in a long distance relationship with my husband for 6 years.
Wow.
Okay. So when I got that American visa, I'm also a poet. I write a lot of poems, and I have my poetry book online on Amazon Kindle. And one of it is called Diaspora Musings. And in Diaspora Musings, I actually wrote about the whole experience of leaving everything behind, packing my entire life in one single suitcase.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my entire life, everything that I represented, everything that I was in one suitcase.
Wow.
Coming to America. But I was excited. I wanted to see my husband. I'm a young married woman. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to get a visa to come to America. But it's when I came, then is when I start questioning my identity. Who am I? Who am I? Where do I fit in? What is my role? How will I choose to show up?
Right.
And that's when I chose to show up as my authentic self. But that's a journey in itself.
So, did you experience any culture shock? Like, what was the most crazy thing that you experienced upon coming to the US? How were you viewed by other people?
So I came to America. I left my job. I left my life. I left everything that represented me. And at that time, I did not do a lot of work on myself. And when you don't do a lot of work on yourself, your identity is hinged in what you do more than finding yourself. So my identity was tied to all of these things that I did. So I came to this place, and who am I now? So I got this job in this school as a teacher's assistant, coming from being a senior mistress, almost like an assistant principal. And I'm here. And then one of the teachers came to the classroom teacher in whose class I'm in, and she said, "Lend me your teacher assistant." And that thing really, like, I felt like, does she believe that I am a thing? Was she signifying me in, and that did not sit well with me. I went up to that woman and I told her how I felt about that. And I remember one day I'm walking home and I had these snow boots, but they weren't real snow boots. They were like rain boots.
Yeah.
And I'm walking in the snow, walking and walking. The next thing, I don't know what happened. I fell down flat, looking up in the sky. I started crying. I wanted to go back to Guyana. At the beginning, I think that was the main thing. I wanted to go back to Guyana. I couldn't read the clues. I couldn't read the cultural clues in the society. Like, up to now, I still think I'm a little off. People would ask me questions. I didn't realize that they were trying to dig to find out things so they can just like label me. I didn't understand how it was working, So I had all of those. Once I was going to university and I was late for the bus and I saw a man in a car. I really thought I was in Guyana. I was like, "Please give me a drop to the
Wow. They probably were looking at you confused.
Looking confused. I said, "Please give me a drop to the bus." She was a Caucasian man. The man said, "Don't touch my car."
Wow.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, but in my mind, I'm coming from Guyana. I'm thinking about drop. Like, the man could have really, he could have dropped me dead, dead.
Yeah.
Yes, but, it's all in the learning.
No,
Wow.
I see. Well, given that experience that you've had, especially, like being new to America, how did your Guyanese identity evolve, given those experiences, and how did, Awe Story Gat Melody come to life despite all of that?
Yes. So I'm here, and I've always been a fan of Jamaican Creole, Jamaican patois, Louis Bennett, Jamaican culture. I'm married to a Jamaican, and seeing how they're showing up with their music, with all of these things. I'm here in America, and I find that I'm having a little bit of difficulty acclimatizing. I am not getting the American accent. I'm not getting, I would see people would come to America 3 weeks, they go back to Guyana, like, "Man, what's up, man?"
Yeah.
And I'm not getting it. And I'm actually examining the culture. I'm actually looking at the pieces that I want to keep and the pieces that I want to discard.
Right.
And as I'm doing that, I'm becoming more and more aware of myself. Now, granted, my mother was a playwright and my father he could hold down a crowd with jokes. While all of that is happening, something is happening to me. I'm looking at the landscape, the cultural landscape, and I'm asking myself, who are the people telling our stories?
Right.
Where are our stories? Who are the keepers of this beautiful culture? What's going to happen to this language?
Mm-hmm.
And this is sitting on my spirit. It's sitting on my shoulder. And one of the things that I would say that anytime you find that there is something that's sitting on you that you can't shake, that's the work that you have to do.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm a person, I don't like to complain. I just like to get things done. I have gone home. I was going home. I wanted to do because I believe in being an entrepreneur. So I'm trying to get different business going and they're all failing. They're all failing. And I'm taking things to family and, there is not the appreciation and the gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
And I just sat one day with my phone and I started talking as if I'm welcoming my cousin home. And I made a video. That's the very first video I made. A Guyanese welcomes her cousin home. And I'm just putting together all the things that I've heard, all the ways that I've been treated, everything that, not only my story, but the collective stories of people when they go to Guyana. And what I decided to do was, I just recorded it. And when I recorded it, somebody took it and it went viral. It really went viral. A lot of people, they took it and it went viral. So I contacted the person and I said, no, like I taught in Guyana. So my students saw it and they were all, they were all linking me. They were all tagging me in the video. So I contacted the person and the person blocked me on my own video.
No.
Yes. No, but everything, it had to be like that.
Okay.
So now I had to write Facebook and tell them that that's my intellectual property.
Right.
And I had to create my own space now. And that's when I created Awe Story. I posted that video. And from there, I just start telling the stories.
Wow.
So it's because somebody tried to block you from something that you created that was a collective experience.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yes.
Some nerve, right?
No, but the nerve was necessary for me to realize that I should have created my stuff on my own space and make sure that I branded my stuff and had it together. Okay? So, but it really helped me to come to that consciousness. Yes.
Hi guys, thank you so much for tuning in to GAF with Gold Rush. We really appreciate you guys supporting the platform and listening to this episode. To spice things up, we wanted to make this a 2-part episode, so if you're interested in hearing the rest of what the lovely Miss Dion of Awe Story Gat Melody said in her episode interview, please tune in the next couple days and you'll hear part 2. Thank you.